Uh, Another day, another dollar. All right. Sorry about that. I was having some stuttering on my side because I use Open Broadcasting OBS, uh, and OBS decided to futz out on me, and so it was still showing, and so my timeline was a bit messed up. But glad to be here. Everyone's doing it. Yes. Krister, please don't retract your likes. All right. So here is it's December 7th. And because of the weekend and PAX and all that, I didn't get to do one of these monthly Q&A, AMA, whatever things. As usual, I'm open to talk about whatever. If we end up talking about hex crawling stuff, I mean, this is kind of the place for hex crawling stuff, but I'm always happy to go afield of hex crawling stuff as need be. I don't have any particular topics, which is why I thought I'd bring up the OSR stuff. Maybe I could surf for um, hex crawly stuff. But I see there's a bunch of good things here. As Bullcatcher notes, my stunning good looks striking again. Yeah, it's how it happens when you're a supermodel like myself. That's just things you got to deal with. I was gonna show something, but I need to fix the box. I'm gonna post a video on this later, kind of an unboxing of it. But I figure since we're here, oh my gosh, this box is not cooperating. Hold on a minute. I'm gonna have to make. Oh wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is it coming? Is it happening? And this is actually something I did not get at PAX. You were noticing. Here we go. Just go this. I got these in the mail called Dice Fall Battles Wilds Core Set. Check out this afternoon. What they are is a selection of big, chunky dice with all kinds of terrain bits on them. And they give you ones for that one was for kind of height. I think, no, that one was for cover based stuff. Then you've got foliage. You've got kind of hazard type situations. And what was the other one? Oh, you get water. And was I missing one? And then this is the kind of the heights one. Ooh, look at that. This is not, I don't think they have a standalone game. So this is basically, and I'll just show this again. And look this afternoon, because I already recorded a quick unboxing, but I had it sitting with me on my desk. So I thought, why not show it off a bit more? This is specifically for doing things like randomly generating terrain for outdoor kind of wilderness battles, kind of anything you need. There's not an actual, it is literally that is its purpose. It doesn't have a separate game attached to it. You get a bunch of dice in the set. You get three of the heights dice, 3 of the cover dice, 3 hazard dice, 3 foliage dice, 2 water dice, and then 1 kind of special dice. And it's all for using basically any way you choose. The folks behind it, they're called Slyfox Games. Go to slyfoxgames.com. I'm repeating myself in the video, but in case you don't wind up watching it later, I'd mentioned, I think that I've been doing stuff on TikTok now, just kind of, and I met them on TikTok. They're on TikTok and they post a bunch of videos of them using these dice to basically make essentially battle terrain for use in games. And I just connected with them and I said, hey man, if you could send me a set, I'd love to talk about it because I feel like it fits in a lot with stuff I like to do, running hex crawls and wilderness adventures. And I think a lot of folks would love to see these. And they were kind enough to send them to me. And they just went down to check the mail, or rather my wife checked the mail this morning, and there they were. So I'll be doing more stuff because I have a lot of ideas on how to kind of use things like this. But look for that unboxing video. I just have to upload it. It's already done. Just need to upload it, which I will do sometime after this. Yeah, the concept was really interesting. And it's a neat way they're doing it. They give you a bunch of dice. And you could do it like, if you've ever seen those videos where people will throw dice onto paper and then trace around the paper for mapping purposes, you can do it that way. Also, they do it a lot for you're creating your battle map or they're using, I think some of them at least are using, or maybe most of them, they're using physical terrain pieces. So they'll throw these dice down and then use that to plunk where their terrain is. And then very quickly you have a whole battlefield surface. And this is Tiger Sugar bubble tea, milk tea for the working man. Bullet Catcher says that tracing map videos exactly what they thought of when they saw these dice. Yep, they do a lot of that. But they actually, I think, have a lot of physical terrain pieces that they do too. So they'll drop it on a table. Sorry, I got boba in my mouth. Drop it on the table and then put stuff over it. But I think I'm more of a theater of the mind man. But I think even then, I could see using these if I needed to drop in. We're in a hex and something's going on, and I need to quickly get some kind of sub-hex terrain for an encounter or something else. You can roll these dice. I have some other ideas. We'll get into it. But I just thought I would share that. And thanks again to the guys at Sly Fox Games for sending that over. Look really nice. Really nice. I always like, I don't know, I like, they're not super big, but they're big dice. I like. They've got some heft to them, which I always appreciate. What else is going on, folks? So before I start cruising around the OSR subreddit, try to find hex stuff. Does anybody have any comments, questions? I'm here for you. Volcatch says they're not creative at all. I don't really think you have to be that creative. I feel like people think too much about the creativity thing. But that's why we have all kinds of tables and stuff. But barring that, if you really feel like, I need to have it, these dice are nice because they're physical. And I'm really enjoying physical stuff of late. And if you missed my my PAX wrap up, I played in J. Scott Garabay's 1 hour D&D game, which is a lot of not terrain based, but using a lot of physical props. I think physical stuff to good effect, namely, magic cards and Lego minifigs and the Yahtzee, the D&D Yahtzee dice, and all kinds of stuff. It just makes for a fun table presence, even if you're not using them to battle map everything out. Bullet Catcher says, yeah, I think too much about it. I use tables and dice for most things. I can tie the dice results together seemingly easy enough, but tables and randomness are needed. Absolutely. Absolutely. And really what those dice are, essentially a table, right? Just in die form. The nice thing about dice is that they do have that spatial relationship, which tables don't have, unless they're going to feed you to another table that says, how far away is this from that and what direction it is. Kind of clunky. Whereas the dice, you can let them fall and they go where they go. And then you have your spatial relationships already kind of mapped out for you, which is nice. Let's see. So what's going on here? So I just looked in this. This is what happens on the front page of the OSR subreddit. There's a question about Middle Eastern themed hex crawls. The only one I can think of is that kind of Al Qadim, but I'm sure other folks have them. So Quietus87 mentions Tarantus, Desert Lands, Lanap regions of Wilderness of High Fantasy, Buridistan, Land of Nod also has some deserts. It's I think it's hard to find. I have some Al Qadim stuff, but I haven't looked at it in forever. Well, I don't know how, good, accurate, whatever they are at this stage. I think it's one of those, I don't want to say forgotten, because it seems like, everything is Western Europe, or you go to the kind of Far East, your Japan, China stuff, then you don't see that much for the whole middle from, you don't really see much about the steppes or the desert, or there's some parts about the sort of Hellenistic world. You do get stuff kind of Bronze Age Hellenistic stuff, but I think there's definitely room for some maybe modern, interesting takes on kind of desert areas. And then just once you have the area, then the hex crawling stuff is just applying it. You don't really, it all just kind of comes together. I'm trying to figure out how to drink this tea, because look at all the bubbles in the bottom of this, the boba at the bottom of this tea. In retrospect, not a wise choice to save this to drink on stream, but I am super thirsty, so you're going to have to hopefully bear with me. Oh, the webpage, I'm probably too zoomed in. Not that there's much to see, but here, I'll back it out. How's that? Terrence, hey Terrence, says that creativity is just the ability to remix what you know and what you're given from a GMing perspective. That's a really good That's a really good point, Terrence. And yes, this is today's drink for the working man from a place called Tiger Sugar. Really good, really good. They do a brown sugar milk tea, bubble tea kind of thing. I'm actually not super into the bubbles, but this time this was brought for me. I didn't have a choice. So this, if actually, I'm going to drink the boba stuff. The what it's tapioca pearls. This flavor is good. It's kind of a like almost like a little bit of a caramelized brown sugar. Wrong. Terrence says that chew very loudly and make it an ASMR vid. Yeah, I'll need to make a separate channel for that. That stuff is kind of weird to me, but hey, people like what they like. All right, so I don't not anything interesting in here. So please bring me your questions and comments. What else? Did I get anything else? Did I get anything particularly Hexcrawl related at PAX? I don't think so. Fortunately, I don't think Blade Runner is going to have anything Hexcrawling in there. Bullet Catcher says, "Did he need tapioca as a kid because someone told him they were frog eggs?" That's just mean. That's just mean. Oh, here's something that might be interesting. Hexing up my campaign like campaign map like Greyhawk. Oh, it's kind of a link. Oh, let's see. Well, we can go check it out. Maybe this will be good. This was posted at the Arcades Tower. Archade, so I might be pronouncing that wrong. The Aquaria Gazetteer, hexing it up like Greyhawk. Now they have their nice. Here we go. Let's see. Oh, because it's. Hold on a minute. I mean, up here off centered. Let's see. I mean, maybe zooming in will be a better bet. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be huge. All right. Fortunately, it's not really great resolution. Brennan asks, how do you make the travel between hexes? How do I make the travel? Can you be more specific, Brennan? So the one thing is just there's travel times, right? How you're getting there. And you can just figure it out. You can use miles. You can just use what I've kind of been partial to lately is just basically having a rate. You have so many essentially. So in the dungeon, you have your exploration turn 10 minutes. So you think about things and how many 10-minute increments they take. I've been enjoying applying that same kind of logic to the wilderness. Only it's instead of being 10 minutes, it's going to be multiple hours. I think I've vacillating between 3 and 4 hours. So essentially, you just say, okay, whatever that period of time is, you can move so many hexes in that time, depending on your hex size. So let's say you're doing with 3 mile or 6 mile hexes. So you take your 6 mile hex and you say, okay, I got 3 hours, and I'm going to say for plains, which is basically the easiest hex you can possibly go to, I'm going to say that you can travel through one hex in 3 hours. Okay. So then over a course of a day, and you can figure out your travel day. So not 24 hours. But let's say you say, okay, 12 hours. So that's 4 of those units. So if you're in grasslands, you can do 4 hexes over a day or however it goes. And then you can just say, okay, so now my grassland hex is set. It takes them 3 hours to get through one hex. But now you're moving into the hills. And then you just determine how much harder is it than the hills than to go through than the grasslands. And you might say, well, I think it's twice as difficult. So then you could just say, okay, so it took 1 3-hour period, whatever we're going to call that. Say we'll call that a wilderness turn or a travel turn. It's 3 hours. So if it took 1 travel turn to go 1 grasslands hex, then we're going to say it's going to take 2 travel turns to go through a hill hex. And then maybe you might say then it's going to take 3 travel turns to go through 1 mountain hex, so on and so forth. And so you can just basically create a shorthand, and then you could work on kind of edge cases. Well, what if you have a little bit of time to spare? Like, what if you had, let's say, some super difficult terrain, say mountains, you say 4, maybe you say, well, that's more than, okay, if you're using 3 hours, then that would just take you the whole day to move through 1 hex, which is fine. But if you're ever in a situation where, what if I need 5, you can kind of figure out, kind of the edge cases of if you needed to have like 1.5, what if it's 1.5 periods to go through? Like I would, though, I guess I don't want to get too far in the weeds, because I would basically just round it to the nearest number so you don't have to deal with those kind of edge cases. But if you wanted to be granular, because it can get more complicated because you could say, okay, if it takes one 3 hour travel turn to get through one hex of grasslands, what if they have a good road, a Roman road, one of those fine roads? So then you want to say, well, it's a little bit faster than that. Or if it's been flooding, you have weather. So it's a little bit slower than that. So you're going to end up finding these gradations. But generally speaking, start off with the very simple. Come up with a unit of time that you want to calculate everything in, and then figure out units per hex or hexes per unit. However, if you're using 1 mile hexes, maybe you want to say it's 3 1 mile hexes per 1 unit, and you can figure it out that way. Or if you're using like a 12-mile hex, then you'll want to set the math. So just find the math accordingly for what sounds right, feels right to you. I like to think around, I go back and forth, but like, I know 12 to 18 miles a day, more or less. So I will kind of round it up and say maybe 18 miles a day, which would mean if you're using 3 mile hexes and you got 4 of those periods, and you can just do the math, right? Then okay, or maybe it ends up being 24 miles a day, but that's kind of best case scenario. Clear skies, no rain, whatever, grass, everything's dry, and then you can start to subtract from there when you start getting into your conditions are not perfect. And then of course, as terrain becomes not grasslands, which would be I'm guessing, other than just outside of roads or just being a paved parking lot, basically the easiest terrain you're gonna have, everything else just becomes some, function of that one. Okay, I've got my sort of my perfect, if everything is going great and I'm on the best terrain, what it is, and everything else, you just determine how much worse it is than that and go from there. Hopefully that makes sense. Uh-oh, I got some comments in here. Let's see. Joey says, "Hey Joey." First of all, Joey says, "One of the first games I played, they played in. They thought it was like Final Fantasy. Traveling the first dungeon, we had a random encounter with 6 boars, and we lined up to fight them. They killed us all before we reached the dungeon." Oh, that's Joey. I just had this funny thing of these. You run into a pack of boars, and then you kind of and then it's like, all right, what do you do? And it's like you line up in sort of a horizontal line, and the boars all line up in a horizontal line to face you. Oh, that just tickles me. Oh, bullet catcher with these sounds boring. Yeah, nice. Yeah, that sounds like a fun way to run your count. Now, remember, the thing is, now not that you can't do that. I would never want to dissuade somebody for running some kind of Final Fantasy ish type of encounter system. But remember, when you're calculating your wandering monsters, don't forget that distance, because if you roll on the higher end of that distance, and it's gonna allow your players and potentially the monsters or whatever, the wandering creatures out there, also to have a lot more say into whether they meet or not, the and how that lines up. Because in a dungeon you only have maybe 120 feet. You in the wilderness you get extended distances. Everything is kind of pushed out, so you're not meeting them at super close range. You might have hundreds of feet, or between you. And I like to even extend it further. Like you might have, if you're in the wilderness or say in the grasslands and they're not super tall grasses that you can see for a while, you might have a fair amount of distance to see something ahead of you. And then you can determine what to do, which gives some nice tension, because if you're wondering, hey, you're on the road or you're on something with obvious, at least local landmarks, so there's no idea of getting lost. Well, if something shows up on the horizon out there that's in their way and they decide to try to get around it, they have to go off that path, road, whatever, gives them opportunities to get lost, get into some other kind of mischief, even if they don't get into the mischief that's ahead of them. Mouthful of boba. Oh boy. Bullet Catcher says they want to play a game where players start with 3 to 5 level zeros in a dungeon. Those who escape alive become adventurers. I mean, that's pretty easy. Just DCC, as Renan just pointed out there. DCC is exactly that. You don't have to, you could run it in a non DCC way if you wanted to. You could pretty much give everybody some kind of, you can even just look into the book and find a villager. I think in BX and ones, they give you kind of at least ideas of what level 0 nobodies are. Hand them a stick, pointed stick, as they say, and roll a couple of hit points for them, and then send them on their way. One of the things, and I don't remember if DCC does this or not, but I've always thought that I've wanted to do in that kind of instance is to have a way for like the things that you do end up reflecting in the class that you end up getting at the end of it. So you start off as a level 0 nobody, Like maybe you have the opportunity to potentially try to cast a spell, and if you do cast a spell, then when you get to level 1, then you become a you become a level 1 magic user. Or if you end up, there's a bunch of bodies laying around and you pick up the sword and shield, then maybe you become a fighter, something like that, so that the things that you do with your various these various level 0 people will somehow uh, be additive to those characters that you come up with on the other side. Let's see what else we got. Perkins says if you run Wilderness in a structured turn, it will follow the standard DM description: players act, DM resolves. You can get through days by doing 2 or 3 turns per calendar day, whatever works for the game situation. Yep. Yep. That's pretty much, I mean, I think that's ultimately what you want to do is you use that structure, and in the same way you let the structure work for you in the dungeon, just let the structure work for you in that doors, which is why I always tell people don't try to lay down that, oh, I have to spend this 4-hour session doing this travel scenario, because then if you do that, you're going to find the dice sometimes aren't going to be with you. You may want to say, oh, they're going to have of course, they're probably going to have a bunch of encounters. It's going to take us days to get through there. And it's like, no, it takes you like 20 minutes and you've rolled dice and you're like, oh, geez, they're already at the town. I'm not ready for them. So always, or I would say, never build your never build out, never try to figure out or build out the time that you're going to spend in the wilderness, unless you are planning out the encounters. If you're going to, because it just ends up, I think that's where people feel like it's a slog, because you just end up in this, there's a rhythm. And once that rhythm becomes apparent, like we're going to move, then we're going to fight, then we're going to move, then we're going to fight, then we're going to camp, then we're going to move, we're going to fight, we're going to move, we're going to fight, we're going to camp. And even if you think to yourself in your darkest heart, oh, this is going to be great and all this stuff, they're never going to see through this and think these are all planned. They're going to see through it and think they're all planned. It's just going to happen. It's going to feel too regular. It's going to feel very much like they're on rails. Like, okay, whatever's going to happen, it doesn't really matter what decisions we're making, because we're going to do this much and then there's going to be an encounter. Whereas part of the whole fun from a player standpoint in the wilderness is trying to get around all this stuff. Like I'm trying to get from just using this map because I'm sitting on it, since I can't see, like whatever it is over here, I'm trying to get to this castle or vice versa. That's my goal. My goal is not to encounter 4 things all across the way. Like for me as a player, I feel like my greatest success will be if we can get from here to there through, let's see, let's just call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I can cross these 10 hexes and be absolutely unseen, unspotted, unencountered, that we just slip by like a whisper in the wind. So if we get on the road and we go, encounter, boop, encounter, boop, encounter, boop, encounter, I'm going to feel like either A, boy, I just failed miserably at everything I was trying to do to be sneaky, or B, at some point I'm going to realize it doesn't matter what I do. We might as well be, instead of being sneaky and trying to be quiet and move by night and, and no fires for our rests and trying to be just as whatever is possible to get through here. I mean, I might as well be going through with a marching band because it doesn't matter. And neither one of those kind of outcomes is what you want, which I think is what you end up doing. I know people don't think they're gonna, no one's gonna be able to see through this. It's like, yeah, people are gonna see it. It becomes obvious fairly quickly. Brendan asked, do I use skill tests, or the players say I will move 3 hexes west, or they do it and they're very new to the Hexcrawl? So for me, Renan, and this is going to be very so let me post this on the screen so people can see this for a second. So here's the question. You can do this different ways. Me personally, the hex map. So like we're looking at this map here. This hex map, and this is my game. This is not player facing. I don't let the players see the map. They don't know, their characters don't know what a hex is. I don't even care. My players don't know what a hex is. Doesn't matter. They don't need to know. What I would do is if they were in this castle or whatever, and they're trying to get to this thing that's, let's just say it's well known, and we're counting, what did we say? It was 10 hexes away, mostly by, and there's a road. So, and it's mostly in the clear. So we'll just say that with 10 hexes, and let's just say we're doing we'll call it, I don't know, 2 hexes for every 3, one travel period, and we'll give them 2 hexes since they're on the road. We could take the road all the way, presumably. So, you could do some math, 10, so they could move basically, what was it, 2, 4, 6, say 8 in a day. but we'll take one away. We'll take a couple away here for these hills. So we'll call it 6 in one day. And there's some hills on the other side. So let's just say a day and a half. So that's what they would learn. They're in town. They say, "Oh, you here, peasant. You here, peasant boy. How long does it take for us to get to the plinth of Planth?" And well, if you take the road, good sirs, it will take you at 1 to 2 days, a day and a half to 2 days travel to get there. Sirs, don't call me peasant boy, please. It's demeaning. Something like that. And then, they decide to go, they decide not to. Whatever. They make their choice. But people definitely do, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different way to play it if you want to put the hexes out there for the party. And they could say, we want to move 2 hexes west or whatnot. So it's completely up to you. Just do what feels right. Do the match the tone of the kind of game you want to run. I personally like it not seeing, having the hexes to myself, and I feel like it just helps these things. They don't get to, one, if they don't know about this stuff up here and the singing plains, if they haven't been to these places, they don't know they're there. I don't need to see them on the map. It's also easier. I don't have to worry about, oh, do I have to figure out some kind of fog of war or anything? Like, no, I don't. They don't see it. The players, if they have a map, which they might, I would give them something that's just kind of drawn, or I might, what you could do in something like, if this is hexographer, which I'm imagining it is, you can actually print these that don't have the hexes. Now they still might be able to tell with the counting symbols, but at least if your party's not in the hex kind of mind, they might not. But in any case, you can kind of do things or trace over it roughly. Just give them kind of a map if they found one, have one, whatever. But that's how I do it. But yeah, you just eventually they just say we want to go however many we want to travel a day northeast into the singing plains. So great, you figure out, and then they just end up somewhere around here at the end of a day, and then you go from there. I don't. So as far as skill tests, there are lots of kind of you can call them travel or wilderness tasks that you can have, and there are lots of great resources for that. Into the Word and Wild has stuff on that. The One Ring has systems like that, so you can have someone taking on the role of a navigator, someone taking on the role of a lookout, someone taking on the role of a scout. And if you want to tie those in with skill tests, you can. You can use basically any skill resolution you want. You can lean on backgrounds and classes. If you had a ranger class in your game, you may just say, oh, if the ranger's on scout, then that's just going to be a success. If somebody else is on scout, then you can roll dice, however basically you want to. And then you can come up with what those things mean. And in terms of the games that use it, the scout might be avoiding hazards. The lookout is helping avoid encounters. The navigation is helping avoiding getting lost. So you can see how everyone has a goal, and that a goal, it's not happening. There's not a 1 minute, 1 moment decision. It's over the course of these hours of travel. Are you steering the party in various ways, keeping them out of trouble? Charlie says that you remember. Oh God, this boba. Charlie says that they remember playing first edition Gamma World, and that the starting distance in an encounter was very important because many mutations had precise ranges, including ones that aggro encounters. Yes. Very, very, very important. Oh, Terrence found Brian Smith's Instagram. Brian Smith, how come you haven't shared your Insta? I don't think I know your Instagram. Hey, and check out Terrence here. Terrence, I don't know you. I don't know your Instagram name by heart, but Terrence puts out lots of awesome art also. So go check it out. Whip Crew. All right, let me see if I guess. Whip Crew KZM. Oh, this is it's spam. I see. I was about to read a question, and nope, it's spam. Well, thanks, Whip Crew, but no thanks. Plus, you're on Twitch. Nobody watches me on Twitch anyway. The K5K says that Warhammer Fantasy seemed good for the background-based skill system. I do have a copy of Warhammer Fantasy somewhere. I haven't looked at it enough. Let's see, Punk. I can't read the whole name because it's cut off on my chat window. Says it would be really cool if you ran a Punk Soup. There we go. Punk Soup says it would be really cool if you ran a live play, one shot, or something one day. Yeah, I would like to. I mean, it comes down to a couple things. Punk Soup. time and resources, which is kind of the same thing in a way. Part of it is I need to be able to do it. I need to be able to sock away time to do it, which is either so the evenings. So the reason why this stream works is because my my day job is flexible enough that allows me to take essentially a lunch hour during the day that I can put this away. Uh, Evenings are mostly family time, other than my one night of kind of my home game. Um, so to run a one shot, I need to either be able to put away more time during the day or sacrifice some family time to get something going at night, which is not, it's not impossible. Just need to kind of schedule it. And also, I find scheduling with a bunch of people can be tough, but it is something I'd like to do, figure out some way um, to get that done. But in just my weirdness, it's actually easier for me to do these during the day than it is for me to do them at night right now, which I think is the inverse of a lot of other folks. But that's just kind of how it works. But it's on my list of things to do, and hopefully I'll be able to get to a point where I can do that. Because I know folks would like to see it. Not that I feel like you're gonna. I don't think it's gonna be awe-inspiring for anybody to see me run see me run a game. Probably setting you all up for disappointment. Um, but yeah, I would like to do it, and I would give me a chance to basically run things that I've only read. Um, hey, and again, don't forget Terrence over there, Homebrew Detritus runs games all the time. So go check them out. And I actually was on there once. You can actually see me stumble through a game as a player if you go check out the Homebrew Detritus archives back on the tubes. Perkins says that having regions with tags, you can change your change your approach to hex crawl travel turns. Yeah, I like the idea of tagging things. I've been working on some stuff like that myself, of a sort. I need to go back and redo Perilous Wilds because I did a read along and I kind of stopped. I sort of stumbled and it just kind of fell to silence before I actually finished it. Uh, you know, so I do need to go back. Did Brian post his? Where's the post to Brian's Instagram so I can throw it up on the chat? I can't see it. Brian, post your Instagram, even if it's just the at whatever, so that Nightbot doesn't nail you. I am not like Matt Mercer. No, bull catcher. I am not like Matt Mercer, especially since I don't do a ton of. I'm not a voice person. Sometimes I'll get into it and then I'll kind of shift. I feel like sometimes I'll just end up shifting into some kind of voice or not even really a full voice. Um, but no voicing for me. Bull catcher wants OSR sandbox with stronghold building, please. That might be for a one shot bullet catcher. I don't know if that stuff fits too well because generally you're doing that stuff over the course of a whole campaign, and I think a session where people are just building a stronghold would be really boring. Maybe not. Maybe maybe some exciting stuff, but I feel like the stronghold stuff is where you do that in kind of a down. I mean, to me, that's kind of a downtime phase or sets of downtime phases because think about it. What you're doing is well, first you have to nail a couple things down, which in terms of one shot, you could set up having like, okay, you have the land. Okay, you could have that. Okay, I could say if I was going to run this as a one shot, you could say, okay, you've got your parcel of land that's been given to you by the Duke, whatever, the Prince, the King, Overlord, whatever. Great, fine. But really, then it's about some kind of planning stage where you are figuring out the lay of your land, where you're going to place your castle, which I mean, you could role play it out, but it's a lot of having some kind of either mapping it out so that you get a map. That might be the first thing is send out surveyors once the land has been silenced, uh, cowed into submission. So you might send out folks to make sure that there's no layers hidden on your land, that it's safe and sound. And that could be a little bit of an adventure if you were just like, hey, me and the gang are gonna go out and we're gonna make sure that however many hexes, if it's more than one hex, we could just say starting with a hex. Is it clear? Free and clear of present dangers. And then you deal with those dangers, whatever they happen to be. You know, so that could be kind of role played out. You could run that as it's like a mini hex crawl. Instead of going from hex to hex, you're moving around your 6 mile hex just in depth. Then you could use You could use these to roll on to give you your sub-hex terrain, and then you could map that out. Or you go and you've explored and you've cleared it out. And then you have the surveyor. Maybe the surveyor comes with you, kind of gives you essentially a fairly accurate map, and then you pick your spot. Okay, where do you want your fortress to be or your strong point? And then you can decide if you want it to be a tower, a fortress, whatever shape and size. Excuse me. Then it just comes down to raising the money and getting the builders. So you raise enough, so you figure out, okay, this is what I want. You could take your color palettes and your materials lists. I want pink granite and I want yellow marble and whatever. You figure it out, and it's going to come up with a cost. And then either you have that money already, in which case you can get your builders and all the different crew members to come and build it. Your builders, your architects, your whatever, folks who are supervising all the stuff, whatever, your whole work crew. Do it. If you have all the money to finish the whole thing, great, or you might have to kind of stage it out. But it probably doesn't make for great. I'm going to watch this for 3 hours. I mean, there's not going to be any, I'm guessing, unless the dice are just amazing, you're not going to get any really cool watchable moments out of that, other than people it just becomes a little bit of accounting the game, which I think when you're into it and you're building your stuff, I'm not even saying that really is a bad thing. I think it's always when you're invested in stuff because you're really getting something out of it. Like, no, I want this castle, and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to write all this stuff down. I'm going to price it out and I can figure it out. And we're going to do all this. Okay. How long does it take? It's going to take 10 months to get the basic fortress outline, the outer towers built, whatever. Then it becomes, okay, what are we doing these 10 months kind of thing? So it's not like you couldn't physically run that kind of game, but I think for a one shot, it's not going to, the players aren't going to be that invested in it because they don't get to keep it. It's just a one shot. And then from watching it, it's going to be like, great, I'm watching them build a fortress, I guess. I don't know. Not to say it's something that nobody could do or I would never do it, but I'm not sure that's what people actually want. Okay, so Brian, who is not doing the work and putting out his Instagram. So everybody go check out Dungeon_Dabbler on Instagram. Friend of the channel, Brian's Insta. Parents has vouched for it. I will check it out. I have not seen it yet. He hasn't sent it to me, so I'll go check it out afterwards. The K5K says maybe it could be adventures clearing out the surrounding hexes for the stronghold, not the actual building, which is kind of dry. Yeah, yeah. I could see having adventures. I would definitely. I mean, look. If I was running, if I could have my druthers, I would definitely run not a one shot, but an ongoing campaign. And if I was going to run that kind of campaign, I would do something akin to Birthright. I don't know if I would use exactly Birthright, but I like the Birthright idea of getting you on that path from first level. So that from first level, at least if you're not, I don't know if I'd go with the kind of like you're born a noble and you're splitting phases, but I think I might want to do like, okay, this game is going to be about these adventurers, these individuals whose end goals are about building out domains. And then as soon as you get the money and as soon as you get whatever, like you can do it. So that way, hopefully bringing them into some kind of world, you'll start making, as a player, you'd start making moves towards what you want. So you might think, okay, well, if I'm going to build my own domain here, what are the things that I need? I need either to go out into if there is a essentially I'm going to put in quotes, unclaimed kind of land, just a wilderness area that no intelligent species has claimed as their own. Can I go grab some? Is there still land there to grab? Can I do that? Or I need to start working I need to start getting into good graces of this power structure, whatever it is. Is it a feudal system? Is it whatever? Like whatever it is, or is it shoguns and samurai and that stuff and lords like that, whatever, or some combination or something totally different. Whatever it is like I gotta get in the power structure because how am I gonna get land is someone's gonna have to grant me that land. I'm gonna have to earn it by doing stuff. So then from Jump Street, what I'm gonna want to do is start getting those good graces, figuring out what lord I can attach myself to so that hopefully I can do stuff for them and then start lining it up. So I would definitely run a whole campaign like that. And then we could work on part of that session 0 kind of campaign setup would be, okay, well, what kind of stuff do we want? How do we feel like the society works? And so then great, then we get out in the world and hopefully all the players have this strong drive to, okay, I have an idea of how I want to try to get from 0 to a lord or a king or whatever, and then start, working through it like that. And of course, since you're going to need money for a lot of this stuff, money and presumably some combination of money and then good deeds, or at least if not good deeds, then deeds that benefit the people in power, then that's going to send you into dangerous places doing dangerous things. So you're going to end up in dungeons and everything like that, because if you go to the local lord and say, "Local lord, I am but a peasant, but I wish to be your I wish to be your faithful servants. Tell me what it is you could do," out there. Well, the lord's gonna say, like, "I don't know who you are or what you're doing, but I'm sure there's something. Somebody complained that, some kind of weird bear was attacking their farm. So go take care of that weird bear. And then come back to me." Something like that, right? Now you go and take care of that weird bear. Maybe it turns out to be an owl bear. Maybe it's living in a ruin. And yeah, whatever, that becomes a little adventure. Come back and then, go up from there. So you're still going to end up in your dungeons and things like that. And as other adversaries or potential allies rear their heads, you'll get that stuff. But then I like the idea that you as a player know from Jump Street, this is where I'm heading, so that it doesn't even have to be at level 9 when it says in the books, like, oh, at level 8 you can make a stronghold. It's like, no, as soon as you can afford one and someone gives and you earn enough reputation, perk, pull, whatever you want to call it. What did they call it? Suction, as they would say on The Wire. As soon as you get enough of that stuff to get a stronghold together, then you can do it. But here's what you need. You're going to need so much gold, silver, whatever for the building stuff. You're going to need a plot of land, and you're going to need someone to grant you some authority. Otherwise, you're just kind of like you're just a robber baron, basically. But if you want to be a robber baron, you're welcome to. Perkins says they would love to run a game like that, but being busy makes it very hard to be consistent. Yes, I mean, the consistent problem is a big thing I have with my home game. It's hard. I don't know why it feels like it's harder now than it used to be. I mean, obviously having a family makes it harder, but at the same time, I'm playing online, and what a family does not make harder is being at home. So, but I don't know. It definitely is a weird. To me, it's weird. Let's see. Bullet Catcher says they're attempting this very thing right now. They have 7 players who schedule time amongst themselves, and they schedule me. That's great. I mean, my players are good about that. I mean, I only have 2. It's a small game, but they've been they're very proactive with the scheduling stuff. I don't feel it's on me to schedule it. They will come to me and say, "Hey, well, I'm available. Can we get time this week to play?" I'm like, "Yeah, I think so." Methinks we can, so we can. In fact, my session's tomorrow night, if all things hold true. 12 sessions so far. That's excellent. Bullet Catcher, congrats. Aaron says the hardest part is getting back up off your couch once you flop down after work. Yeah, I think it's a combination of work ends up extending longer. I find myself working almost towards dinner. So basically dinner when I stop working. And then, yeah, there's something tiring about it. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's just you're getting older. I just don't have the necessarily the boundless energy to go. I used to go right from work. I wouldn't even stop at home. I would take my game stuff to work, then go straight from work, maybe grab something to eat, go straight to my friend's house where we would play, and then from there we would go to a bar afterwards, or we kind of hang out and just BS about the game and about other stuff. And this was on a Tuesday, and I was in my 30s and stuff. I wasn't like I was. So I'm like, oh, this is what I was doing when I was 16. It's like I wasn't that young. We had a great time, but of course, families have now evolved. I mean, this was when I was living in Texas. I'm not in Texas anymore. So that gaming group is not there anymore, unfortunately. So things change, whatever. But just it seems like I don't know that I could do that. I don't know if I could do that anymore. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure why. I don't feel that much older than I was then, but maybe I am. Maybe I am. All right, let me leave this map. This is a fine map. They just gray hawked it up. Kudos to them. What else we got here? I thought there was some good stuff we got out there, but always looking for more. Let's see, more Gonzo classes. No, thanks. All right, so this, I don't know if anyone's seen this. I did reach out to these folks, see if they would send me a review copy to look at. It's called the Hexcrawl Toolbox. I think I might be able to get a hold of looking at it at one post the Kickstarter. It looks really nice. I mentioned before, though it's not. I don't have a direct use for something like this because I'm not playing physically. But I am really digging all these physical physical tools to use. So you get a so let's see, we got like so they got the fun of the project. I don't know how close they are. I didn't see the numbers. They make third, let's see, they might potentially quest scenarios, weird hexes. Okay. I mean, it looks really nice. And there's looks like Questing Beast did a review, did some kind of look at it. So hopefully I'll get a chance to look at it post. We'll see. I'm not always never sure how these are going to turn out, and I'm not such a big man on campus that I can just call people for review copies and be absolutely sure they're going to send them. But they seem to be open to it. How much is this? So the digital version's 15, and the toolbox is 75, and two toolboxes is 135. But it definitely looks nice. I like the art. I like the art. Krister says they feel like this would be great for solo hex crawls, especially if you have a spare table where you can leave between sessions. Oh yeah, no, it's great. I think the other thing, Krister, and not to say you shouldn't get this because I don't want. I'm not trying to say that at all. There are lots of board games, things that also have hexes. These look very pretty, and I think that the nice thing about these is that it knows exactly what it's for. You know, if you use this for a hex crawl, this is the primary purpose. So all the art, everything fits. But you can also, in a pinch, you've got like Catan. Any of the Catan game has hexes. Mage Knight game has hexes. Lots of games have hexes of different kinds, and some of those games even have like hexes and minis and other things with it. So you can certainly cobble together stuff, but this is really pretty. And if I had the spare monies, I would probably would back it. 'Cause it looks nice. And again, I'm really liking physical stuffs. Physical stuffs. You could probably also, if you've got, I want to get more into doing DIY stuff. I'm not a DIY person. I'd love to be more of a DIY person. I know at things like the Game Crafters, you can get hexagon. I don't know if it's cards or what. I mean, you can get kind of hexagon things, and I wonder if you can get stuff printed. It'd be interesting to see if you could print stuff out. I saw somebody on maybe somewhere in Reddit posted something where they did some DIY stuff. Oh no, what they did was they took magic cards. I guess of these different. I guess they call them lands in Magic, and just used some kind of hex die or something, and just cut. Just made basically hexes that had the kind of terrain bits from the art from the Magic cards. It's really slick. I wonder if it's. Let me see. It's probably not going to come up because I don't know what to put here. Let's look and see. Um, as I expected, I'm getting the phone book. Hold on a minute. Let me see. They have hex. Oh, here might be one. Oh, it's a month ago. That's why I go new. Middle Eastern Kickstarter. How did I miss this? Hey, thanks, Fred, for. Ooh, no one commented on it. I suppose that's better than some bunch of negative comments. There's me again. I don't know where it is, but there was a neat thingamajig for doing hexes with some magic cards. If you look it up, you can do lots of stuff. And I just wish I was more crafty to do that stuff. Charlie, you're very welcome for the stream. Anything else? Anybody have anything else? I got time now. I feel like I have time. Let me hit new for hexes just to see. Mini dungeon collections, Neverland or Oz. Blight Seep. What is this? This is called Blight Seep from the Hex Atlas newsletter. So the geography, sparse, evergreen forest. So it's called the Blight Seep. Friends and enemies. I've been writing weekly hex descriptions that can be either dropped into your ongoing campaign or used wholesale for your next adventure. Here's their latest Hex Atlas newsletter. Blight Seep. That's pretty cool. Terrence asks, "Who was the weirdest person I encountered at PAX?" Gosh, I don't know. I don't think I ran into anybody super weird. Um, and weird's a weird, weird is an odd term. There was the guy that was in Philly. So I've been to PAX now twice. PAX Unplugged twice. This is my second time. Both times staying in right in that area, which I think is called the Capital District of Philly. Kind of feels downtown Philly-ish. This year, it felt like you felt it definitely felt like economically that area was more depressed than it had been the year before. I just felt like I just could see it. Like, oh, I don't remember, like, I didn't walk around that much last time, but I was like, oh, I don't remember if like, oh, it seemed to be kind of more closings than I recall. Or oh, there was a big Wawa, which is like a convenience store that makes sandwiches and stuff, and there was a big kind of, I don't want to say fancy, but kind of an impressive Wawa on this one corner. So one of the things I did was when I got there, I'm like, I'm trying to eat, trying to do things kind of on the cheap. And then I was like, go to that Wawa, it's closed. I was like, that Wawa felt like it was really busy. I don't like, it just seems like it's in such a spot that like, I have a hard time feeling that Wawa just closed down. So at first I was thinking like, oh, I wonder if Wawa itself is having just kind of troubles and that's why they're closed. Well, I talked to them when I was on that 2-hour ride with the tow truck driver. I mentioned it about the Wawa and he said that place had been basically getting um it being not burglarized, but basically people were um going in and robbing it. It was just getting robbed all the time. And so they made the kind of decision to close it because of these consistent robberies. And so that's really just kind of it's a bummer. I mean, it's a bummer. Obviously, it means that people are obviously not in a good way. 'Cause I don't think people are just going around robbing Wawas just because. So clearly, that's speaking to kind of upticks in crime, which talking about the economic situation that obviously is some part of it, and it's just kind of sad. And then you lose kind of the Wawa sort of thing. And there were also some more folks kind of on the street. There was a guy that I've known. I live in New York City. You see that the folks who will take shelter in like the 24-hour ATM. So like if you depending on where you live, you might not have it. So some of the banks will have either in the bank itself, a bank office, but they'll often have a separate room where the ATMs are. So what they can do is that ATM room will be open 24 hours with usually with key access. But then there's interior doors that they can lock and secure so that you can move through it into the bank during office hours. But when the bank is closed, you can move it in that you can go to that side, which is also a street facing room, which has your ATMs in it. So what happens is in the cities, like I know them all, but in New York, and I'm assuming a lot of other kind of urban areas, you usually need a key card to get in. But of course, somebody opens the door, they can let you in, whatever. You can find your way in there, and it's open all the time. It's going to be air conditioned, or since it's going to be climate controlled in some way. So in the summer or the winter, whenever people are going to find their way in there and just kind of stay there, and so you'll see folks just kind of camped out in the ATM. And I saw that down there, and I saw some other kind of homeless folks, which is always sad to see. But then I also saw like there was a guy who's doing some like Terrence. This is probably you'll probably get this reference, and nobody you have to be of a certain age. But there's this guy. I think it was on Saturday. I'm leaving the hotel. I'm walking down the street, and there's a guy in front of me, and he's doing these little like he's like got his headphones in. I hope I didn't see them, but I assumed they did, and they were doing like these little dance moves going on the street. But it was like straight out of the 80s. It was like he's like someone who's trying out to be a solid gold dancer, something doing these just moves in the middle of nowhere. And that would probably put me as the like this guy doesn't seem like he belongs where he is. Like where are you going? But he was in his own world doing his own thing. So hey, and he wasn't causing any mischief. It was just kind of to me it was a little bit comical because the whole moves, this whole dancing just felt like it was from a whole different age. It was like that guy stepped through some kind of time machine. Like I wouldn't be surprised if I see him take out his pocket and have like one of those big old Walkman, and like he had just kind of been time warped out of 1982 to the street in front of me, doing like he was doing some kind of like he was. It was like at any moment I thought he was going to just drop into the robot kind of thing. That was pretty funny. Um, nothing super unusual at PAX itself. You see lots of folks of all stripes, which is kind of nice. I always it's always nice to see that kind of community stuff because you can forget about that somewhat when you get in the internet. Kind of like, oh, everyone's just kind of a happy community, happy to be here. Actually looking forward to stuff and it's not doom and gloom and complaining and everything else that we tend to do on the internet. So that was very nice. I didn't get to go to any panels this year, so I didn't see any of that stuff, unfortunately. But it was a fun time. Perkins says that many OSR publications and Dungeon World include group world creation during play that feels strange to them. I think so. I've done. I think Perkins, you've probably seen my stuff or when I've talked about my home game. Like I asked my players for basically what they were looking for, right? And so their thing that they wanted, we just kind of workshopped a little bit was kind of like in terms of the sort of what we call it, like kind of King Arthur, kind of Arthurian chivalry in terms of sort of the backdrop and stuff, but with they really like the kind of factional sort of political games sort of thinking of Dune. So that's kind of what we packaged together. Now I don't know that I want to go through and do like all the details with them, though there are games like Microscope and Kingdom and other things I think you can work through that as a group if you want to. I mean, me as a player, I like the discovery. I don't want to be like for me as a player when I come into somebody's game, I don't go with some predisposition or like I want to like I want to play this game. Like I want to play what the GM wants to run. Like I'm interested in what is your deal? Like if I come down in someone's game, I want to be like, hey man, I want to play your game. Like that's what interests me. So I'm not into like, well, I need to be part of the world building or I want to. It's like, no, I kind of could do as a player. I was like, I could do without it. Now I want you to be able to pitch it to me because there are some worlds I may not have interest in playing in. Oh, we're gonna play in My Little Pony meets Cabbage Patch Kids. I'm probably like, I don't know, unless we're on the same kind of same wavelength in terms of tone. Probably not a game I want to play. But other than that, it's like no, I want to play in your game. But there, I get that folks that the people tend to feel empowered. I think people will tend to feel empowered by having that say, and giving them some of that stuff will also. I do think it helps with keeping folks motivated, keeping folks interested because they feel like they're a part of it. They're not just a passenger on a train. They're partly the creator. So I do think it helps with that kind of stuff. There's a balance. And of course, you got to work with if you're the GM and you prefer more hands-on or more hands-off in terms of player um not player cooperation, player input, then you just make sure you get the players that are also on point with you on that. Got a mouthful of boba again. Parents wonders if they make portable speakers that look like tiny boomboxes. I bet you they do. Oh, I missed Perkins' question. I only saw the stuff after it. When do, all right, when do or have you or do you have players fill out world details during your games? So we did it as part of session 0. Um, so during session 0, almost a pre-session 0. So this campaign, and I'll do this quickly because I know I'm already over time. So this particular campaign, I was actually asked by one of the players. One of the players, someone I know. I knew them in person, mostly online. No, sorry, this person I knew from offline. Okay, so we actually had run into each other a few times. We've been in a couple of adult board gaming nights. I think we'd exchanged information because we're like, oh yeah, it might be cool to do something great, whatever. Then they got a hold of me. They said, hey, they have a couple other people and they want to play D&D. But they didn't. None of them, like the other couple of players, were kind of newer, and like no one really kind of felt like they could run the game. They knew that I like to run games. Hey, would you run a game for us? And I said, sure. I said, but I said like, yeah, that sounds good, but let me tell you like what I want to do. Right? So like you want someone to run a game. So I'd be happy to do that if you guys are willing to play the kind of game that I want to run. And that was mostly about me saying I don't want to run 5th edition. Like I don't want to run 5e. I want to run something that's going to be kind of I'm comfortable in. I feel like I can run fast, prep quickly, all that stuff. So for me, that was BX. I'm like I want to run. I would have said the white box too because I feel like at the end of the day, it's very much they're very much of the same sort. But I wanted to go with the one that was more kind of user, a little bit more beginner friendly, kind of out of the box. If I had to hand them out stuff, I wanted stuff that was going to be, if you hand stuff, I felt like if I handed them bits of the white box to read, it might be feel difficult and it might feel a little bit too foreign to them and too just not new player friendly. So I was like, yeah, we could play BX. And if you're okay with that, then like the next steps will be whatever. So they were like, yeah, that sounds good. I pitched them a little bit on the OSR and like what basically old school gaming is like in terms of the lethality, but also the kind of openness. And it's going to be very sort of you guys are going to drive the story. It's not me. You guys are going to be doing that. And then for me, I said, listen, I don't have some kind of world I'm going to drop you into. Um, let's figure out what kind of world you want to play in. And so that's when we came up with Arthurian chivalry medieval thing plus Dune. That's what they wanted. So I was like, great, I'll do that. And then after that, it was so then I took care of the details after that. So they gave me kind of like, okay, we're gonna help shape the overall what the world is, but I was doing the detail work. And then we got into like characters. I was like, what kind of characters do you want to play? Okay, I want to play like a dwarf, something or other. It's like, okay, I'll make a class for that. I wanted to play something else, and so then I was reading the tea leaves of their class things. I was I was understanding that they were looking for things with a little bit more oomph to them than your vanilla characters. That's when I kind of developed this system that I've been using for them that kind of gives them a little bit of a more powered feel to them. And then I kind of work with them on the details. But I will ask them stuff like, "Oh, like your home, like stuff like where do you live?" Either I'll fill it in and I'll let them know, or they'll fill it in, or sometimes I'll ask them questions in the game. But I think they're kind of I think they're very much in the really liking to explore and discover stuff. So they haven't been like itching to give details themselves, but the door is always open for that if they want to. And it's always nice to have because you never know when you just don't have any kind of inspiration. And if you know it's something that this is going to impact a player character, and it's not something where you're giving away a secret or some kind of plot point, but also let them help you fill it in because then they're going to feel good about it and they're going to feel, invested in it. I see Perkins and Terrence have been talking. Hey, Raid LC is here. Nice to see you. They went to a game convention once and a brony convention was in our in the hotel. Scary stuff. Thanks for calling up that memory. Yeah, there was a teacher convention also at the convention center, which was kind of funny. So we were sharing it with some teachers. If you went down the wrong way, you could have found yourself in a teacher's a teacher's bit and not PAX, which made for some had to maneuver. All right, folks. Well, this was fruitful, I think, as always. Let me just see what Terrence and Perkins are going back and forth. Um, Perkins says that what would feel strange to them is asking players something like, "You're at the door in the dungeon. Describe the door." Oh, yeah, I haven't really played in a game like that. That's always kind of weird to me, Perkins. I kind of agree with you on that one. I'm sure it's a style thing, but it seems weird to me when I'm in the role as adventure exploring a new place and I get to the door and then it's like, you tell me what the door's like. And my thing is like, I kind of want you to tell me what the door's like. Like, I don't know. Isn't that like this is what I'm here to discover? You telling me? Yeah. But on the other hand, Perkins, if it's like, hey, we're visiting your parents' house, right? We get to your parents' door. We turn a corner, we come around a wall, whatever it is there, your parents' house is there. Describe what the house looks like. Tell us what the door looks like. Like that makes a lot of sense. In the dungeon, I agree with you. For me anyway, that's where I want the DM to describe it. I don't want that job. My job, I want to be all about what I do with the door once it's described, not describing the door. But it is definitely a style thing, and I'm sure there's some games that work very well like that. Um, Terrence says that in his case, it mostly comes in the form of players inventing props to interact with in encounter scenarios. Yeah, I can see that because I think there's definitely room for that too. I think it's that kind of theater of the mind thing, right? You're in a tavern, and so a player says, "Oh, I pick up the nearest pitcher and do whatever." And I may not have had a pitcher in my head, but it makes sense that a pitcher would be in a tavern, so it's there, right? That's a player created prop. Um, you know, and but I think it would be an interesting space of then if you would say, well, the player picks up the pitcher, then I had to tell the player, hey, player, tell me about this pitcher you picked up. I mean, that could work too. Maybe the player is reaching around. Is there a metal one versus a ceramic one, depending on what their use is? Is it filled with wine? Is it filled with beer? Is it filled with water? Yeah, you could have some fun with that. I'm sure there's a lot of fun stuff you do. It's all about finding that balance that everybody enjoys and is on the same page with. But usually as a player, I'm not trying to do world building. Like, I really am more than happy to let the GM world build and let me explore that world. But I can't say that I've played in a game where I've been asked as a player to contribute a lot to world building, and maybe if I played one, I would just love it to death. I don't know, so I can't say. All right, folks. Well, I guess that is it. So thanks everyone for coming in. If you could give a thumbs up on your way out, that would be awesome. If you found yourself in here and you enjoyed this conversation and you feel like subscribing to the channel, that would also be awesome. Apologies for me talking with boba in my mouth. A bad choice of drink, but bubble tea. I don't know who Mr. Bubble Tea, Mr. Boba, Fred Boba, whoever invented bubble tea, milk tea. My kudos to you, sir. Hats off. It is a delicious invention. I think everybody should try it. Folks, game on. Thanks for coming. Talk to you later. Bye now.